Are you worried about being unemployed and or having an employment gap on your resume and how that's perceived? If yes, you'll definitely want to watch this video. So I work with a lot of job seekers. My clients are typically in a job right now, but they're looking for something new and or they've been unemployed for some time, not having any luck in the job search process, and really want help in getting there as quickly as possible, getting to their new job as quickly as possible. What I've realized is through working with hundreds of clients over these past years, I see a lot of clients who are really worried about unemployment gaps. They're worried that on their resume, it's almost seen as like this red scarlet letter, as if they're no longer employable, or there's this really negative stigma around, are they as marketable as others? And what I want to share is it's in the way that you control your narrative and the story that you tell, because I can tell you right now, very few people, or I would say the majority of the population, doesn't have this really clear linear track of a perfect career where there was no changes, there was no gaps, there was no layoffs, no restructuring or reorganizations that happened throughout their span of their entire career. Most of us, the majority I would say, have had really big trials and tribulations in this thing called life. Whether it's voluntary or involuntary, a lot of us have left our careers to pursue something different and or out of necessity. And so what I want to share is it's really in the story that you craft. And I'll give you an example personally that I went through to help really articulate this message. So in 2013, I had just started a new job in a tech startup, and it was a really, really cool company. Shout out to Smart Recruiters. CEO was really awesome and really understanding. But basically, about a month in, I felt so terrible, but a month in, my mom actually was diagnosed with cancer. And at the time, she was living in Arizona, and I was in San Francisco. And so I just remember at that moment that my values and priorities completely shifted. I was very, very career oriented, and I still am today, but I just remember thinking, oh my gosh, I only have one mother and I could have multiple jobs and careers. And so I ended up talking to my boss, and we tried to work something out. They were super gracious and generous and allowed me to basically fly back and forth every Wednesday between Phoenix and San Francisco. Over a period of like 2 or 3 months in doing that, though, I felt really drained. I just felt like I was never able to, I felt bad leaving my mother. And so basically, long story short, I ended up resigning. I didn't really have anything lined up as a backup. I just remember thinking, oh, I'll figure it out. But what's important for me right now and what I value is being there for my family. And so I ended up moving back to Phoenix. And what's interesting is I went through some interviews, not just in that year alone, but even like 2 years down the road, I was interviewing for new positions. And I remember every single interviewer asking me, why did you leave Smart Recruiters? And what did you do between this time period? And so I would explain my story about how I was the primary caregiver and support for my mother who was facing an illness, and she's okay now, but at the time I was really focused on that. And what's incredible is during the interview process, every human empathized with me, and I had so many stories and connections with people who said, I have a family member who's also diagnosed with an illness, or oh my gosh, yes, cancer is so prevalent. One of my best friends has been affected. And it was just kind of really cool to hear people connect and understand and have empathy. And I never had trouble finding another opportunity, because in my message, in my story, I was conveying to them what my personal values were, what my reason for leaving was, which was legitimate, but also what I was doing in the meanwhile to make sure that I sharpened my skills and that I can, without any doubt, jump into making a direct and immediate impact and contribution to this new organization. And I would say that I actually got every single offer for every single interview that I've been on. And so again, it doesn't mean that you have this scarlet letter on your resume if you're finding yourself still unemployed or unable to get interviews. It does mean though that you need a better strategy, you need a more clear, cohesive message, and you need to make sure that you stop walking into those interviews with the mindset of, oh my gosh, I have the scarlet letter. Instead, I want you to take your unemployment gaps, again, whether voluntary or involuntary, as a lesson learned, and share that lesson and really lead with that, because again, everybody has I don't want to say everybody, that's a bad generalization, but the majority of us don't have a linear career path, and we've all experienced hardships and trials and tribulations. I am guaranteeing you, so many of us have been laid off, we've had reorgs, we've been fired, whatever it may be. There's just been so many changes in our careers, but it's the way that you control that story that is the most important, and what's going to help you build the confidence in getting your interviewer to hear your message and really resonate with you. I hope that's helpful, but I really wanted to share that message because again, I talk to so many job seekers who are almost paralyzed by their unemployment gaps and or just having not a perfect sparkling resume. And again, it has nothing to do with your marketability. Everybody who has been fired at some point and or been laid off has been able to bounce back and find another role, and you absolutely can too.